What's good, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new Amazon video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how managers, whether they're good or they're bad, can completely alter everyone's experience at Amazon, and it can make a drastic difference. Having a good manager can make such a big positive difference compared to having a bad manager, which can completely ruin somebody's experience at Amazon, especially if they're brand new and their very first manager is bad. I want to talk about that in today's video. And yeah, follow me on Instagram at Nathan Padilla if you haven't already, but let's get straight into it. So the reason for this video is just because obviously I make content and I make Amazon content, and every single time I look through the comments on my videos, some of the things that I say, some people can relate to them or agree with them, and some people, they're neutral on it, and then there's some where it's just like they have completely wildly different experiences. And I've always said this in a lot of videos, everyone's experience is different at Amazon. Could that dog please stop barking? But everyone's difference is at Amazon is very, oh my god, this dog. Sorry, I got a little bit off track there. That dog started to bark a lot. I don't even know if the mic picked it up, but everyone's experience at Amazon is very different. And I've always said everyone's site is different. Like, depending on what site you work, it's going to give a very different experience, and that's why some people end up really hating Amazon, and some people who might be similar to that first person that I mentioned might actually really enjoy Amazon. Even if they are doing the same role, they just have different managers and different sites, which makes things very wild. Just very different. Everything is very different at Amazon. Nothing is the same, especially when it comes to different sites. But even so, in the same exact site, you could have wildly different opinions on the job and wildly different experiences because you have different managers, and different managers take things differently. Some are strict about some things, some are not so strict about those things, and then some are strict about others. It really just depends. Your manager can really change the experience of what it's like working at Amazon. And I honestly I didn't know how much of a difference it made until I started searching through the Amazon subreddit and seeing some of the things that some people's managers said. And my first manager, for example, was very strict, and some of the things that I would say on the Amazon subreddit are some of the things that I would feel nobody else could relate to because their managers weren't nearly as strict as my first manager was. And it's crazy because it really can make or break somebody's experience at Amazon. Somebody who's come into my comments could leave the most hatred kind of feeling towards Amazon, but it sucks because that person could have had a totally different experience if they had worked maybe at my site where I had a much more positive experience, or maybe at someone else's site where they've had a different experience as well. And it's crazy how big of a difference Amazon managers make. I don't know exactly why every single manager takes things differently. I don't know why some managers, even managers on the same exact team as another manager, will act so differently. I'm not sure why it's like that, but that's just how it is. I remember my first manager was extremely strict with TOT and extremely strict with break compliance, especially TOT and break compliance, like those two specifically. She was a very strict manager overall, but I got written up on my second week at Amazon. Like the very first week that we get on our own when we're no longer training with the learning ambassadors, that second week, which is basically the first real week at Amazon, I got written up because I got back late from break. I think I got back like 2 minutes late, or like a minute, or like 30 seconds late. It was like not that late at all, but I did get back slightly late from break and I got written up. And after that, I was like, damn, I see why everyone online and everyone in the news and all that stuff, I see why they make fun of Amazon for making their employees pee in bottles and stuff like that, because not only was I just ever so slightly late for break and I got written up for it, that manager would constantly talk to me about TOT and stuff like that as well, basically saying she would usually it was an area manager, she would usually get her PA to do the dirty work for her, so it was the PA that was coming up to me and talking to me mostly, but that PA was like, what were you doing during this time, what were you doing during that time? And I would have to, that's when I eventually started giving the tip. If you've been subscribed to my channel for a long time, you'll know way early on in the videos, I always used to give the tips. Write your TOT down. Every single time you go to the restroom, every single time there's a blockage, every single time there's anything interrupting you from working, write down what it was and the exact time that what it was. It was because of that manager. I had that very bad experience because of that PA and that AM. The PA would always come up and talk to me about, why were you using the restroom during this time, or what were you doing there this time? And every single second of the day that I wasn't working, I would get asked about. And it's impossible to remember what you were doing the whole entire day without actually writing stuff down. So ever since then, I started writing stuff down. And even to this day, I haven't been bothered about TOT God, it's probably been a year or more. I think it's been over a year since I was last bothered about TOT. But even then, to this day, I still write every single second that I go to the restroom down, just because of how scarred I was from that first manager that I had that took things incredibly seriously. After that, I think I went through a couple other managers, but there was one other one in specific that I do remember. He was very, very strict about break compliance. He didn't care about TOT at all, but he was extremely strict about break compliance, where you have to show up 30 minutes on after your break, whether it's your okay, so actually I forgot to mention this. The first manager, she cared about break compliance even during the first break. For those who don't know, or I'm pretty sure most of you know, during the first break, it's not scan to scan. So if you come back a little bit late, that's okay. The second one is scan to scan. That's the one that I got in trouble for. But the first manager, she used to take scan to scan seriously for the first break too. So even your clock in and clock out break, you had to be clocked in, clocked out, and working 30 minutes only max. And I would get written up for that all the time too. But the second manager that I was referencing, he cared about break compliance, but he didn't care about TOT that much at all, really. He didn't care about break compliance for the first break. It was only the second break, the scan to scan break, that we don't get, or that we get paid for. If you were a few seconds late, you were definitely getting in trouble. And it happened all the time, because sometimes even if you clock in like 4 minutes early, if there's andon, or if there's like an andon pulled, or amnesty is working on the floor, or the pods are literally just taking forever to come, or even if you don't have any work at the moment, if you're in stow, when things like that happen, it's kind of like impossible to get scan to scan even if you clock in hella early. It's sometimes it's just impossible. That's how it is. And he was very strict about it, but he was also way more understanding than the previous manager. I would tell him the scenario that happened. I would tell him why I didn't clock or why I didn't start working immediately, and he would understand, and he would let me go off the hook. There was him. There was another manager who counted the breaks as TOT. So I've talked about her a lot. This one manager that we used to have a long time ago, whenever you would go on break, she would count the whole thing as TOT. So your first break was 30 minutes. She would count that as TOT. So pretty much you couldn't use the restroom at all for the rest of the day. And every time you did, you would get the write-up forms, which I remember getting written up by her like a lot. I remember getting written up. I'm surprised I didn't get fired by how many times I was written up by her. But she was also writing up a lot of people as well. Like several people every single day were getting written up by her, because again, she would count the first break as TOT, the one that you clock out. That one was considered TOT to her. And then that's your 30 minutes. You get your break, you get 30 minutes. If you went any over that 30 minutes, you'd get written up. And so you go back into work, and you're no longer allowed to use the restroom at all. So you better use your restroom within that break time, that first break, because that was it. After that, you're done, because you already reached your 30-minute TOT limit per day. And she was strict, and I just know, like, if I had those first three managers that I mentioned, specifically the first and the third, if I had them throughout my entire tenure at Amazon, I would absolutely hate and despise working here, because they were so strict about everything. They were incredibly, incredibly strict. Now, the most recent manager that I've had, that I think is going to get switched out soon, unfortunately, because I've gotten really comfortable with the way that she works. Whenever I first got under her team, she was extremely strict about rate, like very strict, but she did not care about break compliance. She did not care about TOT, none of that. I know not to worry about any of that stuff, because she's understanding. She knows that summer problems occur, and that's just how it is with her. And it's just like, there's been so many different experiences with Amazon. There's been managers that I've had that don't care about anything. You're completely fine. They're not going to bother you about rate. They're not going to bother you about TOT, break compliance. They're not going to talk to you about any of that stuff. They're going to leave you alone. And it's just like, at Amazon, everything depends on your site, and even down to your manager, because you could be in the same exact building as me, work the same exact shift code, everything, work the same exact position, and then you'll have a different manager, and your experience could be significantly worse than mine. So I just wanted to make this video kind of like, I guess, spreading awareness for those who might be new to Amazon, those who plan on applying to Amazon, and those who maybe are starting like next week or something like that. Your experience in the beginning might not be the best, but if you feel that the pay is worth it, or that you just have to stick around for whatever reason, or you know you're going to stick around, don't worry about it too much. Amazon rotates their managers very frequently, or managers end up quitting very frequently. You'll eventually end up getting a new manager, and your experience could be significantly better with that new manager. I don't know. The purpose of this video is just talking about how different experiences can be, but it's also like, I guess, a good piece of advice if you're new at Amazon. Like, things are different and things work differently depending on your manager. You could have a bad one, you could have a good one, and your experience can be bad, your experience can be good. So that's just like a tip for new employees. If you're new here and you feel like some of the things that I talked about you can't relate to at all, even though you work in a fulfillment center and you work inbound stow maybe exactly like I do, your experiences, again, they might be different. Maybe you could wait it out and see if there's a new manager, or maybe you have a good manager at first. Don't always expect it to stay that way, because you might get switched to a new manager that actually ends up being horrible. Like my third manager, for example, that I mentioned, like she compared to the first and second manager, absolutely atrocious. Even though I didn't care for the first manager that much at all, the third one made the second and first one look like geniuses. It's different. It's very different. And that's also why sometimes I make these videos. Sometimes some people in the comments can't relate to any of the things I said at all. Like I mentioned this recently in a couple of videos, I think, where I said that like the TOT part of Amazon for me when I first started making this content was a huge deal, because my site was incredibly strict about it. Not necessarily my site, but just the managers I was being given were incredibly strict about it. And a lot of other people in the comments said like they don't care about TOT at all at my site. And it just depends. It always depends on the manager. It depends on the site. And yeah, so whenever I make this content, it might not be fully relatable to some people, and that's just because the managers at Amazon make such a big difference on how your experience is going to be. And it's unfortunate, but this could be said for all jobs, to be honest. At all jobs, even if you work at like a McDonald's somewhere, you might have a horrible experience, and then you go work at a different McDonald's, and you might have the best experience in the world because the manager is way better there. It just really depends. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. I went through my videos list, some old videos list that I found, because I've been out of ideas for a long time now. I've been using some of you guys' ideas, and I found this video list that I made like last year, or like it was like last year. I started building it in 2021, but I used it in 2022 as well. And I kind of didn't touch it for like 8 months straight. Today I finally looked back on that list. I was like, there's some pretty interesting pieces of content here. Let me try and go back and make some more content from this list. So I have a big list of video ideas now. Not sure if I'm going to use any more of it, but I guess we'll see. If you have any video ideas, let me know down in the comments below. But with that being said, I'm going to end this video there, guys. Thank you so much for watching this one. If you did enjoy it, leave a like, subscribe to the channel down below. I make Amazon content like this every single week. I will be live, or I will have another video out on Saturday, and then I'll be live this Sunday. And yeah, I'll catch you guys then. Love you all. Peace.